that would have made him wary? Had Reggie been threatened by anyone? No. He paused and added, I don't know. He was quieter than usual. I just wish I'd done something. Was there anything different about that night? No. Well, not really. I jumped on this. What do you mean, not really? Just sort of an atmosphere. That's what Meire would call it, he said. Meire was his wife, a nice woman, and a good friend. Nothing I could explain. No matter how hard I pressed him, Lester couldn't give me any more details. In the end, I told him the funeral would be in Wiltshire, and I'd call Meire later. I hung up and walked into the parlour, my gaze falling on our framed wedding portrait. Reggie, slender and studious, squinting nervously at the camera since the photographer had made him remove his glasses. Me, beaming, my curly hair in place for once, looking so young and excited. It had been Reggie's 37th birthday. People whispered at the time that I was looking for someone like my father. Just the opposite. My father drove me mad on a regular basis. I loved Reggie. He would patiently explain things to me. I had learned so much from him, about myself, about life. I didn't know how I'd do without him. Reggie never told me anything about his work, because he said I would find it tiresome. He knew I was quickly bored. Reggie helped me see I needed a purpose, a cause. Few jobs were open to married women, and nothing available had ever appealed to me. So I'd written a few short stories that were rejected by everyone. My efforts at sketching would never sell. I knew I didn't have the drive to try acting, but Reggie had continued to encourage me. He was the only one who had. I stared at the portrait. He was such a private person that after 3 years of marriage, I still didn't know him. Not truly. And now I'd never get answers to those questions he'd deflected. There was a knock on the door. I went into the hall and shouted, "Go away!" I heard heavy footsteps do exactly that. The inquest was held a few days later in a dreary courtroom full of heavy wooden furniture and peopled with the interested and the nosy, all dressed somberly. Police evidence was given by the police inspector I'd spoken to at the morgue. He still sounded tired and ready to be rid of this case. He made the note discovered in Reggie's pocket and finding the body in the shadowy alley behind Centre Sapp's hotel, the main point suggesting suicide. The type of gun, the same as the missing one from our home, was explained as evidence of a thought-out plan. Medical evidence told us only that his death had been quick and relatively painless. That was small comfort. Reggie's supervisor, Sir George Rankin, wore an expression that made it obvious he could taste the anger and fear of previous defendants in this courtroom. He stated that Reggie's work was not dangerous, he was a conscientious employee, and he didn't seem worried about anything. Sir George didn't mention the search for the Foreign Office traitor or his suspicions about Reggie. Lester Babcock testified next that Reggie hadn't appeared worried about anything, that he seemed perfectly normal the day of his death, both at work and at the theatre. He didn't mention the odd mood within the group that night. Then it was my turn. As I sat in the witness seat, I could feel hundreds of eyes boring into me, trying to guess my secrets, wanting to strip me bare of my thoughts and my dignity. The coroner spoke in a mild voice, asking simple questions. When was the last time I'd seen Reggie? Were there any money problems? Were we happy? The last was the one I replied to the most forcefully. I gripped the wide wooden railing in front of me and snapped, "Yes!" Taking a deep breath, I added, "Well, we were content. After the first flush of marital bliss, I think most marriages fall into a routine both parties find satisfactory." The coroner cleared his throat. I think I shocked him a little. Then he asked me about the pistol, and I told him it was missing from our flat. I also told him about Reggie's inability to shoot right-handed, although he did everything else with his right hand. He dismissed me then. I looked at him surprised. "But I have more to tell you." My father, sitting in the first row of spectators, came halfway out of his chair. I ignored him and looked expectantly at the coroner. He blinked and said, "Please continue, Mrs. Denis." I pulled the dirty, wrinkled theatre programme from my purse. "I found this at the entrance to the alley where Reggie's body was found. It's his. It has his notes in it. Reggie kept every theatre programme from every production he'd ever seen." "You found this in the alley where your